this is Anjera with WUFO Internet Radio.
Yep, I got it. I appreciate it,
And I'm in the car right now with Mr. John C. Barnette,
right.
And he's the CEO and founder of T.H.U.G, that's True Healing Under God. And I'm just having a conversation with him about how he started his organization and what he does.
With my cousin to buy a pair of tennis shoes, and it was the wrong size. So it was size 8 instead of 9. It was like a Reebok pump. And Chris wanted him to go back to the mall. My brother's 26. Chris was 16. And my brother just got some gas money from him to go to get the shoes. But it was the wrong size, so he wanted him to go all the way back. So my brother said, I'm not going all the way back to the mall to exchange the shoes from Lake Wiley to Gastonia.
Right.
It was almost 30 minutes away, so he gave him the receipt and the shoes. And Chris, being arrogant and bold, he said, no, you're going to go back and pull out a gun. So my brother told me he was going to fight him over a pair of tennis shoes, so he turned around and shot him once in the back, shot him twice in the back. Then when he hit the ground, he shot him a third time.
Oh, my goodness.
And so, after about a few minutes after that, I woke up his body, of course, still in my suit from church. And on that day, that's when I realized that a lot of people go to church, but they don't physically activate and do what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Which means, how can a pastor speak to 1,000 people and 3 of them not go feed the homeless people the next day? Or 3 not visit the jail?
Right.
Or 3 not do something in the field of civil rights to help somebody else? It's just social club, so to speak, for some churches. And so in saying that, I wasn't able to bend down, encourage my brother to accept Christ, which is what I've been doing all my life in church. So he later died, an hour later. Yeah, hold on. The Million Man March in 1995, October 16th. So I drove to D.C., didn't know what to expect, didn't know what to do, didn't know how to get on the subway, none of that. And so when I got to D.C., there was like 61 speakers there that day. Stevie Wonder was there. I was standing beside MC Hammer, Coretta Scott King, all 3 slain widows of the civil rights leaders was there. T.H.U.G, Malcolm X's wife, the next one. T.H.U.G, Malcolm X's wife, Coretta Scott King, and Myrlie Evers, which was Medgar Evers' wife. They spoke. Again, Stevie Wonder spoke, Johnny Cochran, Russell Simmons, Al. Now, ironically enough, Al Sharpton spoke, Jesse Jackson spoke, Cornel West spoke, Michael Eric Dyson spoke, Russell Simmons spoke, and of course Farrakhan spoke. And I didn't know that 10 years later I would be either meeting all of those individuals and having dinner with them and in-game relationships with them. But long story short, all 6. So what happened was when I went there, at the end of the day, all I remember was Farrakhan saying, go home and write my brother in prison. So I went home and started writing my brother's killer in prison and came up with a creative writing outreach, which is in a neighborhood not far from where we're going in Lake Wiley. And I started T.H.U.G. All of us knew Tupac. All of us loved him. He died, we cried. Because he died, I think it was in 96, and the march was in 95. So we, I knew all my friends knew about Tupac. But unlike my friends, I knew about the autobiography of Malcolm X. I'd read that book. I knew about...
So what's the next one?
Yes. Taking off the rest area. You go down a little bit more. It's, then you got the Miseducation of the Negro.
Right. Read that.
By Carter G. Woodson. So I started reading those books anyway in the military. Don't turn here, don't just keep straight. And so what happens is I started reading those books. No, just stay right here and just keep straight. No, won't force you. And what happened is once I read those books, I just didn't have the marbles in place. So all of my friends, all 9, ended up in prison, along with my brother's killer, Chris. And so I started writing, and I called it T.H.U.G. So I only wrote just my 9 friends in prison, and I started reaching out to just them, which resulted in me later going on the air on Power 98, maybe a couple months later, maybe a year later. And all I did was just get church members to write inmates. I'd go to my the mothers of these inmates, which are my cousins and friends' house, and then I would go make a left when you get off. I would start writing them. Then I got everybody in the neighborhood to start writing. So they were getting 5, 6, 10 letters a month, which is a lot for an inmate.
Yeah.
Because the most important time in jail is mail time. Imagine being an inmate. It's 100 inmates. 99 individuals get a letter from their loved ones, and you don't get a letter at all. And so, in around the time of 1997, it was Father's Day. And a local reporter named Sheila Stewart wanted to do a story on something positive for black males. So she invited me up to highlight T.H.U.G. So once I told them the concept of black churches reaching out to prisons, the black community period reaching out to inmates in jail, a lot of people got convicted. and everybody wanted to start writing. So that next week I had about maybe 60 to 100 letters in my mailbox of inmates that had heard us on the radio. So then I had to start scrambling and trying to get other people to write them. And then it grew to like 100 inmates within a month. Then it grew to 200 inmates because they were telling other inmates inside the jail.
Right.
And then we kept running plugs on it on the radio. So I literally created something just for 9 friends. And then at the end, like around 2000, we had 700 inmates in 13 states.
Oh, wow.
I would write one letter and then I'd shoot it off to all of them, like 600-700 letters.
Yeah.
And in 2001, Reverend Sharpton went to jail for a nonviolent protest in Puerto Rico, Vieques, Puerto Rico. And when he did that, we wrote him in jail. Well, I wrote him in jail. I just told him to keep his head up. And I sent 3 letters, which was symbolic to my brother being shot 3 times. So what I did was when I sent the letters, I put his face on the back of the envelope. So when he got all that mail on his bed from Michael Jackson, who he represented in '92, Johnny Cochran, you know, inmates, he got my letter, but his picture was on the back of the letter. So he opened up the letter because his picture was on the back. He was curious. And once he opened that letter and read it, it encouraged him and inspired him and gave him, you know, a lot of encouragement while he was inside the jail. So he called his office in New York, keep straight all the way, and he invited me to New York City to speak in front of the United Nations building, in front of C-SPAN Live. That was in August 21st, 2001, I'll never forget it. So when I got there, I didn't see any cars, a bunch of cabs in New York. It was crazy. Keep straight all the way. And so later on that evening, he put me over the city of Charlotte, North Carolina. So I worked over the city of Charlotte for like 5 years. What that meant was that I was an activist, kind of like the NAACP in the city of Charlotte.
Okay.
And I would address issues. Somebody get shot, somebody get tased, somebody get wrongfully terminated, discrimination in the schools against black males, anything. And most cases were black-oriented minorities, but we was accepting both black and white. And so I did, and then I later advanced because I progressed so quickly in Charlotte that he put me over the entire state of South Carolina, which is one of the most extreme states because South Carolina has they have 27,000 inmates.
Wow.
And 17,000 Afro-American men. So South Carolina, out of all 50 states, is the number 3 state in the country with the most black men in jail. Number 2 is D.C., Maryland area. And number 1 is Louisiana. They have 77% black men in jail. So South Carolina is very vicious. And part of that is because they don't have any resources coming in. Only 2 checks that South Carolina get is from the lottery and from prisons. They don't have an NFL team. They have to come to Charlotte for that. They don't have an NBA team. They have to come to Charlotte for that. So they don't have any money coming to the city. So the only way to make money is off of the descendants of these slaves, so to speak, as I call them. Charleston, the Beaufort area. You know, that's the blood of slaves is thicker in the soil of South Carolina than any other state. Why? Because that's where we came in from, the slave ships. Cornel West said that 63% of black folks in this country got some ties with South Carolina. You hear stories of Snoop Doggy Dogg's mother being in Union County. Fantasia has ties there. Guy, Teddy Riley, Aaron Hall, all of those are from South Carolina. I got kinfolks in South Carolina. You do, you know. So yeah, they said 63% of African Americans in this country have ties. So that's where they brought the slaves in.
Right.
And we migrated from there.
That's something.
Yeah, and so in 2001 to 2008, 2009, I worked with Reverend Sharpton directly, addressing Chris Rock's mother in Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. She wasn't fed in a restaurant at Cracker Barrel for an hour and a half. She called Al Sharpton. I met Al. Then we did a press conference in front of the Cracker Barrel. And then in 2008, when Barack Obama got in office, our calls increased from 6 calls a week to 30.
Wow.
And so we had no choice but to go full-time civil rights. So I retired from Reverend Sharpton, that's correct. And I just took on the responsibility of creating T.H.U.G, a prison outreach, into a civil rights initiative. Almost like a civil rights movement, a hip-hop civil rights movement.
Now tell me, what does T.H.U.G stand for?
T.H.U.G stands for True Healing Under God.
Okay.
Which is like literally what I received when I forgave my brother's killer.
Yeah.
And I juggled with it like true hope under God, true help, and I was like true healing just flowed.
Yeah.
So Tone X, who we're honoring today, he said it just perfectly fits that acronym. That's pretty much it.
All right. So where are we going today?
Today we're going South Carolina. One of the issues that I addressed, we're going to York, South Carolina. Okay. One of the issues that I addressed in 2002, after about a year of working with Reverend Sharpton, after a year of him spitting in my face saying, "Don't be scared of nobody," I came to York County and realized that they wasn't honoring Dr. King's holiday. In South Carolina, 2 counties out of 67 was not honoring Dr. King's holiday. You're gonna make it right, and you're gonna make it right. At the street, near the street. And so, yeah, at the light, brother. And so once I realized that, I did a protest and a boycott in front of the courthouse in 2002. And after 30 years of not honoring it, 4 months later, after I threatened to boycott and exposed it and used civil rights as a flashlight on that situation, they actually approved the holiday. So now 1,100 employees in York County is off because we stood up and made it happen. And I used the numbers game, which means I kept putting in their face, meaning, speaking of the city council, the county council as they call them, county council members.
Right.
It consisted of 1 black woman and 5 men. And the black lady, when they did the actual vote, voted no. There was 1 white man, we call him the Lone Ranger, Buddy Moats, that actually voted for the holiday.
Oh, okay.
Left at the light.
Well, that's
and so,
powerful.
yeah, and so the black lady didn't vote. So when I addressed the city council, I specifically pointed at her and said that the reason you're in this seat is because of Dr. King. She just felt as though there was no need to be off. The kids need to go to school and stuff of that nature. But the main thing is it was money. See, you realize when the counties are closed, you can't pay for a business permit to work on your house. How crazy is that? You got to pay to work on your own house. You can't pay probational fees. You can't pay bonding to a certain extent. The judge is not in. The court system can't get court costs, court fees. So you lose a lot of money on a day like that. But you know, who cares? It's Dr. King's birthday. And you got 65 counties honoring it, and just 2 was not lawyer neglect. The lawyer messed up his case. And in saying that, he lost that particular case 8 years ago. Because the lawyer, I don't know, we believe she got paid behind closed doors. She must have gotten paid behind closed doors. And so in saying that, we started a wrongful termination support group. So he's a link to T.H.U.G. So when people call us, I direct them to him. He's been fired off their job. And so he'll be coming and talking to the audience today. And today we got a family, the Johnson family, coming from York, South Carolina to my MLK rally, along with Tone X, because he's coming. We're going to be honoring him today. And in saying that, we have the family coming of a Rock Hill man who actually he was accused of a rape of a white female, and he's in Kansas. So today is just not civil rights, just to talk about Dr. King. Today is actually civil rights as it relates to being active, because I believe that today Dr. King did not want us just to talk about the Nobel Peace Prize that he won. And then until people really study civil rights, I think we as a people need to know. We know more about the name of Beyonce's baby than how many times Dr. King was shot. So I'll be glad when Black America learns exactly how many times Malcolm X was shot and that he was choking on his blood. They need to hear these graphic stories because it'll connect you with them, and it'll get you more connected to the fact that, you know, Dr. King he just didn't have the I Have a Dream speech. He was against the war in Vietnam. He was working on an economic plan for blacks in this country. And as soon as he exposed that, he was later assassinated. We need to know that Medgar Evers was encouraging blacks to vote. He got shot in the back of the head in his own driveway at his house. Dr. King, I mean, I hate to be graphic, but when he was shot, half of his jaw was shot off. And that needs to be known. Why? Because the people need to connect. The Jews would definitely not let us, will not let us forget about the atrocities that happened during the Holocaust.
Right.
And people say you don't want to talk about slavery that was in the past. You even hear, America say that at times. But I think we need to identify with. I think every day we need to wake up with a slave on our mind. And the reason I say that is I think if you can keep continuously connecting with that, you are identified with an appreciation you need to have for your ancestors. But at the same time, you'll learn about and you will be able to grasp a hold to something called love. And I think that's what will eliminate black on black crime.
Right.
The only reason the brother pulls another gun on another brother is because there's no love.
Right.
And once we find that love, I think the bullets will stop ringing out. Such is the case with my brother and my cousin. Make it right here. So today, make it right here. We're going to be exposing wrongful terminations today. That's something that's going on right now. Mm-hmm. We're going to be focusing on the case where next week we're scheduled to fly to Kansas to initiate some civil rights in support of this Rock Hill man. And go all the way down. And in saying that, that's what I want people to do. Get active on Dr. King's birthday.
Gotcha.
And that's what we're trying to do today.
Okay. That's great. I thank you for your time and sharing with me.
Oh, yeah. Anytime.
And I see why they call you the Prince of Civil Rights.